All right, the clock on the wall says it's 5:30. This meeting was scheduled for 5:30. This is the City of Green Bay Ethics Board. The microphones are on, the camera's in the back in the corner over there. So we'll start with roll call and just introduce yourself for the record, and again, the camera's back there. So Mark, we'll start with you.
Sure. Mark Olson.
Sherry Graham.
Bill Vandecastle.
Patty Keywiz.
Good, thank you all. We have 4 members, that is a quorum, so that we can proceed. Next item on the agenda is approval of the agenda for this evening's meeting. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
And I will second, so we have a motion and a second. Any questions on the agenda? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Item C on the agenda is approval of the minutes from the June 14th, 2018 meeting. That was previously sent out. Are there any additions or corrections to those documents, or to that document? All right, is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second.
And we have a motion and a second. Whoops, I want my pen around. Motion and a second. Any further discussion on the approval of the minutes from June 14th? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Next item on the agenda, consideration of request by Alder Dorf to withdraw a code of conduct complaint against Guy Zima. Mr. Calney, would you give us an update as to what this, where we are with this?
I guess on September 25th, actually on September 23rd, we received a statement from Ms. Dwarf that was attached to your packet stating that she is withdrawing the complaint, actually giving us notice that she's withdrawing the complaint. A request was made that this be signed by Ms. Dwarf, and she did so on September 25th. And I understand that document was circulated to Mr. Zima, Ms. Dwarf, and the committee. And that's where we are today.
And it's my understanding that this document was filed with the city clerk's office, is that correct?
That's correct.
So it is part of the file?
That's correct. It should be made part of the file.
Right. So what's the process with this, with the filing of this? What do we do at this point, in your opinion?
Well, normally a withdrawal of a complaint means that there's going to be a refusal to prosecute. This board is charged with the duty of having evidentiary hearings. It's hard to have an evidentiary hearing with only one party. When you look through the code, I see nothing that would allow this committee to sanction Ms. Dorf for withdrawal, for example. In fact, if a complaint is false, the code specifically says that's a matter that is taken up at the alder's own cost. Certainly, this body can't make constitutional findings. So we have no complaint to have an evidentiary hearing over, because there is only one party. In my opinion, the matter must be dismissed. I'd go as far as to say it also has to be dismissed with prejudice. The items complained of are in excess of a year old, and the code's very clear that complaints can only be brought for items that are less than a year old. Of course, this board only acts by recommendation. I would recommend to this board that they dismiss this matter with prejudice for failure of prosecution, as stated in the withdrawal. It's very clear there's an intent to withdraw.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but we've had a number of prior proceedings here, but at no one of those was there ever any evidence ever presented. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So we only had the complaint, and then there were no witnesses ever sworn, there was no testimony ever given before this board, so there's really been no presentation of
Evidence at this point, no.
Okay.
I also would note that normally would lead to a dismissal without prejudice because there's been no evidence before the body. But again, here we have a different situation because the complaint's old.
Board members, any questions from you of Mr. Calamy?
Don't think so.
Right. So we have consideration of the request to withdraw. Mr. Zimma is here, and I'm sure you'd like to say something, so is there a motion to open the floor to allow Mr. Zimma to address the board? I'll make that motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Mr. Zimmer, the floor is open.
Well, first of all, I think I'd like to say that I think you can reject the request to withdraw. Ms. Dorff has made these charges a year ago. She's put this community to great expense to bring what I consider false charges against me, and now she does not want me to have the right to be adjudicated. Whether you have a right to, or the council, I shouldn't say your recommendation, the council has a right to inflict punishment or not, I think is probably a moot point, because I am out of office, and all these things regarding a person who's in office. But you do have the right, and I believe the responsibility, to adjudicate the matter, to decide whether it was fair and just accusation or whether it was false. I've been basically smeared in this community for the better part of a year regarding this matter. First and foremost, I want an opportunity to clear my name. The council, Mr. Kelmy advised that he felt it was a moot point and we should continue with the case. It went back to the council. The council rejected that, and they sent it back for you to have a hearing. You sent a letter to me to that effect on Mr. Vandercastle. You said, since the council of June 19, 2018 directed that the ethics board provide Mr. Zimmer with a hearing in regard to the code of conduct complaint previously filed, and so on and so forth, you were to schedule a hearing. So the council said, schedule a hearing. Let him have his date. Tell us whether you think meets the justification of a complaint or not, and then we'll decide about it later. And again, punishment is irrelevant.
Let me
My
ask you.
character is what's at stake. And if I just could
Sure.
continue. After that, the council opined on it a second time, because one of the council members asked for reconsideration of their directive to have you have a hearing. A second time, the council rejected that, and it was supposed to be set for hearing. And now Ms. Dorff, and I don't know what the fear is, but doesn't want this case heard. The community, I think, has a great interest in it. I have a great interest in it. I plan to run for office again someday, and this should not hang over my head. I think you should either reject her request to withdraw it and continue on, or maybe you should ask her to pay for and send an apology to me for putting me through all of this without the intention of giving me a chance to defend myself against what I consider her false accusations. You know, the filing of the complaint creates a great suspicion in the community. And leaving it unadjudicated is equivalent to dragging a man behind a horse and leaving him in the mud to die. Because that's where I'm at. I'm just this smeared, muddy person. And I don't think it's any great stake for you to hear the case decide whether you agree with Ms. Dorf or not, and make your recommendation to council, and the council to make their, and I will accept guilt or innocence as those bodies, yourself and the city council opine. Again, the council referred this back to the ethics board not once but twice. I and the public are waiting adjudication of this matter. This is of great public interest. I'm asked about it all the time. What happened? What was it? We're going to leave this unadjudicated. I think it's, implicitly unfair to make accusations, which I consider false, and to withdraw them in the name of, as Ms. Dorf says, I believe it is irresponsible to spend more of the taxpayers' money in pursuit of a complaint. What about her moral responsibility to give a person their day in court to be exonerated or found guilty? And it is of use to the council and the community to have an adjudication of this matter, because it tells them what's acceptable and what's not acceptable behavior. Is your board really going to set a precedent that it's okay to file complaints before elections and drop them after election, leaving doubt as to the validity of the complaint? Do elected officials get to accuse fellow officials without proof or adjudication? It's unfair, it's unjust, and I believe it's beneath the dignity of everything our country stands for and what we stand for. You're the Ethics Committee. I can make complaints, and I'm not going to hold you responsible for the mistakes of the newspaper, because they're abundant at all times. But the paper said that I was supposed to, that this was an ethics complaint. And of course, it's not an ethics complaint, is it? It's just being heard by the Ethics Committee. It's a code of conduct.
Exactly. So let me ask you, I mean, you're obviously, you were on the...
Go ahead, I'll let you interject.
Well, you were on the council when this code was adopted, so I know you're familiar with it. So under the code of conduct, how do you propose we proceed without a complaint? The complaint's been withdrawn. There's nobody here to provide any evidence. There's never been any evidence presented before this body. So the question I would have for you, I'm not disputing anything that you said, but the question I have is, what authority do we have to compel Alder Dorf to present her evidence if she's chosen not to?
Well, she sent you her evidence.
What's that?
Say that again.
She's already sent you her evidence.
No, we've seen no evidence. All we have is the complaint.
What is the greater good, the greater harm?
I understand that, but I'm asking you, what authority do we have to proceed without a complaint? If she is no longer willing to pursue this, for whatever reason,
I think it's having the moral gumption of an ethics committee to do it.
that may be the case, but we're still operating under the code of conduct, and that's what I'm asking. Do you see anything in the code of conduct that would allow us to proceed without there being a complaint, because it's been withdrawn? I find none, but I mean, if you have something that you think...
So people get to create great costs and great accusations and are allowed to withdraw it at the last moment without any repercussions.
To my knowledge, there is nothing in the code to prevent somebody from withdrawing a complaint once it's been filed.
Well,
I'm not aware of anything.
I feel you're looking for something to get off the hook.
No,
That's unfair to say that.
Well, it's unfair, everything that's been done to me. And this this attorney and the city have really been working together to try to get this off your agenda.
Well, there's no
Been
complaint.
doing their best to get it off your agenda.
There's no complainant.
Well, when she was asked if she wanted to withdraw it before, she absolutely said no.
Well, that,
And then the recommendation of this committee to the council was that it be dismissed, not, I don't know if the word was dismissed, maybe if you help me, Mr. Kelly.
Yeah, I guess it would be dismissed.
And,
On the basis that there's no jurisdiction.
and the council sent it back, and they said, try it.
right. And that was before Ms. Dorf, Alder Dorf withdrew the complaint. So that we're in a situation today where I understand your concerns, they're legitimate concerns, but frankly, from my opinion, I see no basis for us to be able to proceed without there being someone here to present some evidence to us to make a decision on. There's no evidence for you to respond to, because there is no complaint. It has been withdrawn.
What do I need to do? Make a complaint against Ms. Dorf for false accusations and bring it before your committee to put this back in front of you?
I can't give you any legal
I would
advice.
suggest you to speak with your attorney, because we can't give you that advice.
Well, I'm speaking rhetorically.
I understand.
I'm not asking for your advice.
So,
I'm just speaking rhetorically. And that's what I'll do if I have to do it. This is, I'm bound and determined that this is going to come before you, one way or another, to give the justice it deserves. And you may well find against me. But I have a right to clear my name. I've been smeared in this community for a year. It's still, the paper keeps writing garbage day after day that hasn't even been put into the open air yet.
Again, we, as you mentioned, we can't control what's stated in the paper. We can only proceed based on what's in front of us, and what was in front of us has been withdrawn. So we have nothing for us to proceed on.
Well, as I told you, I felt that you could
Okay.
reject your
Anything.
request for withdrawal and tell her what just might happen if she doesn't go through after all the torture she's put to me and my family, and during my election in this community when I lost narrowly. I think it was a contributing factor. I don't think it was the only factor. But, and it's all on the supposition of what I consider false accusations, and how conflated it got in the news, which is not her or your fault or mine, but it's just total unfairness. And they've wiggled every which way to get out of it. And she says, oh, we've gone through great expense. I don't know what Mr. Connolly's bill, but as from prior experience, I know it's in the tens of thousands. And I will apologize to you publicly if it's not. But, and on it goes, plus all of your time. She can come and waste everybody's time. She can make false accusations. Is this the precedent we're going to set?
Well,
We're going to
again,
allow her to get away with this?
a complaint was filed. It went through the process. That complaint has now been withdrawn before any evidence was presented. And we're at a situation where we need to move forward with this based on the fact that there is no longer a complaint. So again, anything further?
I know someone had asked me if they could speak. I don't know if you're allowing other people to speak.
No, again, it would not, it's not on the agenda. This is not a public forum for this. This is a proceeding regarding this matter. So is there a motion to close the floor?
I'll make a motion to close the floor.
We have a motion, is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to close the floor. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, we have before us then consideration of the request by Alder Dorf to withdraw the code of conduct complaint against Mr. Zima. Is there a motion to grant that request and dismiss this matter with prejudice as Attorney Cowley indicated?
I'll make that motion.
Motion, is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is adjournment. So,
Motion to adjourn.
we have a motion to adjourn. Is there a second? Okay, motion and second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. We are adjourned. Thank you.
Will I have a chance to speak?
Not on the agenda, sir. This is not a public forum. This is a
Well, I
hearing
know, but
process.
I've asked you if I could have it.
And again, I explained to you, this is not a public forum tonight. It wasn't on the agenda for the floor to be open to the public.
Am I doing it right?
Thank you.
Exactly.